Hi, I'm Kim Anderson, President of the Faribault Area Chamber of Commerce and Tourism, and I'd like to welcome you to our Conversations with Candidates. Today we'll be visiting with State Senator Vicki Jensen and her opponent, John Jasinski. Welcome.
Thank
you.
So
I'd like to begin by just having you tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your work and your past service. Vicki, let's start with you.
Sure. I'm Vicki Jensen. Thanks for the invitation and the opportunity to talk to folks today. I'm a wife and a mother and soon-to-be grandmother, so we're anxiously waiting for that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I'm a business owner, and I served on the school board. I also served on the board for my local chamber and as public policy chair. I also, because my background is in agriculture, that's my roots, I am a member of Farm Bureau and Farmers Union, and I'm your current state senator. As your senator, I serve on the Center for Rural Policy, I'm on the Rural Caucus, and I also serve on the Senate Task Force for Rural Policy as well. So I've done what I said I was going to do. I've listened, I've done my homework, which is very important, and then I went to work to make sure that we're able to find some things for solutions to the challenges that people are facing. I meet the second Saturday of every month in 3 locations throughout the district so that I can learn what those challenges are. You can go to vickijensen.com, and I hope that you will, to learn a little bit about my priorities and some of the accomplishments that I've been able to do in my term in office. I look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. Well, John, let's get to know you a little bit.
Again, thanks again, Kim. I think these are great conversations, and it's a good way of doing things, and it's nice and relaxed. It's in a good atmosphere. So I'm the current mayor of Faribault. I'm finishing up my second term, so I've been 8 years as the mayor. Been involved in city government one way or another for 23 years, from the Planning Commission to EDA to Main Street Board to all kinds of different boards and commissions. I've really enjoyed that. My background, I was born and raised here in Faribault. Went off to the military, served 4 years in the military, came back, attended Mankato State, went into business finance with a concentration in real estate. I'm a business owner. I have a MDC Real Estate Services here in town. Own several different properties, rental properties as well, and do property management and real estate brokerage here in Faribault. I've enjoyed being the mayor for the last 8 years. It's been a tremendous way to understand Faribault, and it's just been great to know everybody. My political platform when I ran for mayor was economic development. Ran for that to try and get more economic development here in town, more businesses to locate here and more businesses to expand. When I took that on, obviously in 2008 I was elected, 2009 took office, and the economy went kaput at that time. The world stopped turning, as we say, and but even though with that we've seen major expansions, we've reopened the woolen mills, we've seen Sage or Electric Sage and now St. Gobain. I have a huge expansion of about a $353,000 square foot facility. I've been involved with that. I've been involved with Faribault Foods expanding to their current $120-some million project. So I think even through the economy, downturn in the economy, we've done well as a city. We've tried to make the city of Faribault better. We did have to downsize things that we didn't expect at the time, but we did downsize government, as did many businesses had to downsize, so we did that. I think we did a good job as a city, from the chamber to the city to our boards and commissions to really help do that and make Faribault a better place. So I've enjoyed that. I have 2 kids. One is a senior in high school here in Faribault, and one is a sophomore at BA. So JC plays volleyball and basketball, and my son is a football, basketball, and baseball. So love sports, love to be around those guys, and enjoy doing that. My whole family's here. I have 5 brothers and sisters, and my mother lives here in town. So 6 out of 6 kids in one town's pretty neat, and I enjoy that. So that's my background. Again, I have a website, Jasinski for Senate, as well. You can check that out and see my things. But I really look forward to taking my experience in both business and city government to the next level at the state and trying to make Minnesota a better place. So that's why I'm here, and I look forward to the campaign.
Well, you can tell these are some busy people, so we're going to try to get a lot in just a few minutes to share with you their position on a number of issues that are important to us. So obviously, as a Chamber of Commerce, we're concerned about the business climate, and we want to see the economy grow, and we're concerned about the tax burden on business. So in the 2017 legislative session, if you're there, what will you be able to do to affect those concerns by business? And John, we'll start with you on this one.
Well, what I hear, and we've both been going door to door and hearing a lot of things at the door and things like that, but taxes, I think Minnesota is the highest, one of the third highest tax state in the nation, and I think those taxes are too high, both from a personal standpoint and a business standpoint. They're very high, and that's reducing what can be done here in Minnesota. So I think we need to watch our spending. Less regulation. I'm all for regulating certain things, but to a certain extent we need to be careful with that because it's becoming more and more bigger. Our government's getting bigger and bigger, and they're spending more and more money. I believe the best way to see the economy expand is investing in the free enterprise and seeing businesses expand and not government expand. So I want to work to make sure that all the plans out there and all the programs are efficiently run and that we need them, and to look at those to see if there's things that we can be more efficient at or that we don't need, and try and reduce that tax rate for both the citizens and the businesses. Corporations are not expanding here and relocating here because the business tax is so high, and they're going other places. We have an industry here right in Faribault that won't expand here because the business climate is better in another state, and they're looking at distribution center, and they won't come to Minnesota, or they won't expand in Minnesota because the high tax rate. So what I want to do, using my experience in the business, I've been involved with several different businesses, expanding here, relocating here, listening to what they have to say, and try and make our business climate better. Get those taxes down so they expend their capital money and reinvesting in other projects versus spending it on taxes. So my big goal is to reduce the tax burden. Minnesota shouldn't be the third highest tax state. I can live with 15 or 16, but number 3 is not acceptable to me, and that's what I keep hearing. We should be a lower tax. So that's what I'm going to fight for when I go to the Capitol.
Well, Vicki, you've been there and in the trenches, so how would you answer that question about, in the 2017 session, what would it take to grow the economy, and how would you address the issue of the tax burden on business?
Well, since my time in the legislature, this is an issue that I have worked very hard on and received recognition for my work, especially on rural economic development. The Coalition of Minnesota City, Greater Minnesota Cities, and the League of Minnesota Cities gave me a Legislator of Distinction. This is a partnership that has to happen, and when we talk about trying to grow economically in all parts of the state, we have to make sure that there are advocates there and people that understand what the outcome is for all areas, especially when it comes to rural areas of the state. So what I did is I took on what's called BDPI, Greater Minnesota Public Infrastructure Development Grant Program, and I changed it. It's been there for a while. I was able to get quite a bit of money in there. In fact, $800,000 went to the Faribault Foods expansion, so you can see how that relationship between the local and the state has to work together to offer some of those things for businesses to get them to stay. But what I did is, right now there are communities that have businesses that are there, but they're not willing to expand, or they want to expand. Those are easier to get the grant money for. But the communities that don't have all the infrastructure in place, they're not as able to get that money and have that money available to them. So now, because of the change that I made in the legislature last session, communities like that, which this is an entire district, but this also affects all communities in Minnesota. If you want to put that infrastructure in and attract a business, you don't have someone on the hook that's ready to go, but you want to put that in and make that investment, because it's an investment by local and it's an investment by the state to attract those businesses and get them here. They'll be able to qualify for it where they were not able to do that before. So that's an opportunity for all our communities. I've continued to work on that with a real understanding that when we use the word investment, we have to understand the return on that investment. And sometimes we don't do that in the legislature, so I've brought that as, I worked at Citibank for 12 years as an efficiency analyst, and that's what I did. Part of what I did is take that process and then look at it on a balance sheet to see how we're recording it. So I bring that unique perspective where I'm able to look at a process and determine if we are actually getting the return on investment that we need. And that's the part that's important, whether we're talking about taxes. I've worked on several. I did not vote for the tax package the first year I was there because I felt it was too burdensome, especially for our businesses on capital equipment, and then fought for the tax reductions and the repeal of those taxes the next year. So I have a record of working with especially small local businesses and making sure that those tax policies are fair and they give a good return on investment for everyone.
A follow-up question for you on that. When you talk about the development of infrastructure in order to bring businesses in, how can we be sure that that business recruitment is new and comes from outside the state? In other words, not necessarily robbing Peter to pay Paul, moving within the state doesn't really help the state's economy, right?
Well, one thing that we did is I did take a look at the Job Z program, which is exactly the kind of situation that you're talking about, where we were having businesses move from one community to another based on the availability of those tax breaks.
Okay.
But so they were not new businesses, they were just shifting. And so we took a look at that and made some changes there so that that's not as readily happening.
Okay.
But it is a big concern. And one thing, the biggest thing that BDPI and that particular program has done is it has allowed the state and those local communities to offer packages that other states are offering. A lot of these businesses have other locations in other states,
right,
and we're competing for that business to attract them here. So we need to do things in a balanced way that has workers and housing and all those other things locally, and the state can partner with local governments and local communities to make sure that those things are available as well. Because without them, it's really hard to attract new businesses.
Okay. John, an opportunity for follow-up on that? Anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I think we do need to make sure that we are, attracting businesses and doing things like that. You don't want to rob this neighboring community of a project like that, so I agree with that. I think the majority of our industry that we see is expansion of existing facilities, and that's what I like to see, the expanding and making sure, again, so if we have a facility here in Faribault or anywhere in District 24 that needs to expand, that you have those, again, programs to do that. And again, I think the biggest thing is keeping our tax rate down, because I don't see more businesses locating here, because we are the highest tax, one of the highest tax states in the nation. So I think if we get that down, we'll get more people relocating here, and that's what we need to do to get more investment here coming to Minnesota, because Minnesota has a great quality of life. So I think you get more people here in Minnesota and stay here in Minnesota. We're seeing a lot of people exit the state from business and personal because of the state tax rate is so high. Okay. So if we can keep those people here, that's what I want to do.
Well, I can tell we're going to wish we had more time, because there's a lot of ground to cover here, but that's okay. We're going to move on to another really important issue, and that's education. We know that's a pretty complicated one, and again, to try to fit in a number of topics here today, I'll ask you to be as concise as possible. So there's a lot of opinions, differing opinions about how to best manage education in Minnesota, and employers continue to tell us about the difficulties they have in finding the workforce that they need to have their businesses grow and expand. So what do you think are some of the things that you'd like to see happen in education? Starting with you, Vicki.
Sure. So education is something that I've also, as a school board member, had some experience in understanding the needs and the challenges that our rural schools are facing in particular. And the main thing for me was working on career and technical development, getting some of those career and technical things into our classrooms. In order to do that, I think we have to be innovative, involve public-private partnerships, allow businesses to actually participate. When I talk to manufacturing companies that are looking for that workforce development, what they're telling me is they knew the person had the aptitude for things like reading a blueprint and reading a ruler, those types of things, they would be willing to put in the training. But when they're putting in training with kids especially that don't have the aptitude, it's not a good return on their investment. Mm-hmm. So what I'd like to do is partner with these companies, put some packages together, get them into the schools early, like 7th grade, and allow the kids to have experience in that. So I passed a bill also called IT Academies that gives kids the opportunity to learn about IT, which is one of the most demand fields that are out there right now, and get a certificate. So it's an RFP process that the Department of Education did and offered it to a company. They trained the teachers, but the curriculum is theirs, which is extremely difficult, but I think very important and really the way of the future to allow that kind of partnership to happen within our schools where the curriculum is designed by the companies that need to hire the people, mm-hmm. and the kids get a certificate. They get a certificate, which would be the exact certificate you would get if you worked for the company. So they can take that certificate and they can go out and get a job, or they can go on to secondary, 2-year or 4-year degrees. I think that's the type of thing we're going to have to do with our demographics and our need and requirement of skilled workers.
Is that going to be welcome by the schools?
Well, we will see. I think it's going to eventually happen. But we had to create also, what I've been working on is getting rural career coordinators within the rural districts in the Workforce Center. So you incorporate the Department of Deed and the Workforce Center along with the Department of Education, and that is a great partnership for workforce development as well, to make these partnerships and figure out what's the best return on investment to get these kids the skills and to work on something that we know they have the aptitude for and that they're needed in our workforce right now. Because we want to attract businesses. We've always been able because of our strong work ethic, but our demographics are not in our favor, and we know that just based on there's going to be more over 60 than we have in school. And those people that are dropping out of the workforce, we're going to have to replace those workers too, along with the ones that we're short. So for me, if we can get that information to the kids at an earlier age, provide what I call opportunity gaps and fill those opportunity gaps, working alongside private industry and the Department of Education, the Department of Deed, I think we can do some really great things for our kids.
So John, back to you on the topic of education.
Well, that's one thing we probably agree on, because it's pretty straightforward. I think we need to see that in Faribault. Same thing, getting people into the technical trades. They're not what they used to be, and I've been heavily involved with the manufacturing industry here in town as well as throughout. And we need to get the qualified people. And it's not only getting to the student, but it's getting the parents. I think the parents are set on, everybody's goal is to have your kids go to college. I mean, that's the majority. Everyone wants to get to college. But if we educate the parents as well as the kids at that young age, I'm thinking more 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, to get them educated, to understand that these technical trades aren't what they used to be. If you tour some of the facilities around your manufacturing facilities, they're not what they used to be. They're not the technical trades that people think they are. They're much more high tech. And when these kids get out of that type of a training, they have a job ready to go. And college isn't always that way. So I think trying to educate both the parents and the students that what is out there. So, and we've tried to do that in Faribault here as well, trying to get in with the school district and South Central College to educate the kids at a younger age. But I think getting the parents involved as well as to understanding that is really important, so that people can see, hey, I can go into the trades business and make a very good income and a very good lifestyle. And what also South Central College is promoting is there's exit and entry. So you can get your job, go through training while you're actually working at a facility in town and work that trade for a while. And as you get that trade mastered, you can actually come back into the program and get your next level degree to go to a higher level. And those entry and exit points are important to keep those things going, so that you can, earn your degree so you don't have a great, big, huge college debt at the end of it. So you can work your way through it. And then as you work your way up and get the knowledge, then you go to the next level and get more of a management experience in that same trade. So I think that will work well in getting the students as well as the parents educated on what really our technical trades involve these days.
Is there anything specific, John, in legislation at the state level that you think should be done to enact some of that, some of the ideas that you just spoke of?
Well, I haven't been involved in it for the last 4 years, so I don't have the technical side of that. The overall thing is that we need to make sure that our teachers hold our students accountable and make sure that they have programs that make our students that reach that level, and it's something that not only the students but the teachers and the parents can also agree on, that it's the best education for what they want to look into, because different areas in the state have different trades that are in high demand. So if we can put that local control of the school districts and the parents and the students and the people involved in the school to understand what's best for their community or their region or their district, that's what's important.
Did you have a follow-up?
Well, there is legislation that has been passed at the state level. I worked on that as well. It's called Pipeline. And so it's getting businesses to offer apprenticeships where kids can earn and learn at the same time and get that credit. So there is things like that. And the thing that we're working on that I'd like to work on next on that is to make sure the businesses get connection with the kids and the kids have the connection to actually participate in the program. That's what I think is the next step.
Okay, so, wow, we're really going to have to ask for some rapid-fire responses here, because I want to get to a lot of other issues. What about transportation? John, real quick.
Well, transportation for me is a big issue. I'd like to see more money in roads and bridges. Use that tax that we capture between the gas tax and license fees and the sales tax on automobiles. Use that money to get into roads and bridges. The big light rail discussion's been going on forever. It's been very controversial, but I believe for this district we need to be in roads and bridges. That's where our money needs to be spent. If they want light rail in the metro area, they can capture that through their 40% of the sales tax on automobiles to get that they want. And then I was just at a Metropolitan Council Transportation Committee just a couple nights ago listening to that. And they have the taxing authority to do those things in that area, that 7-county area. So my belief is we need to let them use that money in that 7-county region to do that investment. Out here in outstate Minnesota, greater Minnesota, we need roads and bridges. Highway 14 is a big thing, and I know Vicki's been interested in that as well, so we both agree on that, but I want to see more emphasis put on roads and bridges and not light rail. Light rail, to me, doesn't get us anything in outstate Minnesota. And we don't have the tax base to support that out here. We're struggling to maintain the roads and bridges that we have, so we need to spend that money on those things, and getting that connection from the east side of Otana to Rochester or into Casanare, Dodge Center, to make sure that 12.2 or 13.2 miles is completed. It's very unsafe, and if we increase that and get that done or get that completed, our whole region is just going to flourish because we'll have that connection from Rochester to Mankato to Otana to Faribault to the metro. And by completing that, and not just a couple miles at a time, we need to get that whole project done to make it more efficient and get that done. So I want to see roads and bridges as a focus.
Okay, thank you. Vicki,
Okay.
transportation.
Yeah, transportation, yes. Highway 14, I've been working on that long before I was elected. I was able to get $75 million towards that project and 3 miles of construction and bonding to save our EIS statement so that we could continue working on that. But there is a bigger problem than for rural Minnesota than just the revenue that we have to try to raise, which we agree and did agree last session, the governor and the Senate and the House, that we need $600 million more per year in order to maintain. This is not going above and beyond. Mm-hmm. So what I spearheaded the Corridors of Commerce program, because we wanted to add in another mechanism, another measurement that the department can use to determine whether a road project should go into place. And Corridors of Commerce does that. It talks about economic development needs of different districts. There were 600 projects that were turned in for that program. But the main problem, and what I'm talking about that we have a bigger problem, is the transparency of the project selection process. I called for an audit, we got an audit done, and it looked at the process. The result was it's not transparent. So I went to work, I put a bill together that says the Department of Transportation must tell us who's making the recommendations, what recommendations were made, when they plug it into a spreadsheet, what are the weighted measures that they're using. In the top 2, there's safety, but there's also congestion and population growth. That doesn't work in rural areas. Our highways are never going to rise, and that's why there are 600 projects in that Corridors of Commerce program. So my bill says they must do it, must put it out there. Then legislators can take a look at it and say these weighted measures do not work for the entire state of Minnesota. And transit, of course, is an issue that certain parts of the state have to take a look at. But the transit for light rail is paid for by the quarter-cent sales tax of that 7-county metro, the construction. We put $30 million into subsidizing the passenger ride, but that includes buses and trains. So we have to take a look at the entire system. I voted for a comprehensive transportation plan that would remove even the subsidy from the state rolls and would put that $30 million into roads and bridges, and it would remove our responsibility for the subsidization and move it to the local level. So light rail is going to the local level, but the problem is, and this is what happens, you have to represent the entire state too, that outer ring is paying that quarter-cent sales tax, and it's going to be a long time for they get a project. So it's important for us to understand too that in other parts of the state, we are a donee of that gas tax, and if we had to pay for Highway 14 on our own, the construction alone is $250 million, and that would put a huge burden, and it would increase our taxes. We'd have to raise sales taxes and property taxes in order to do that. So I don't think that's a system that we want to move to. I'm ready to go back. I want to take a look at this. Everyone that came before us said they want new revenue for roads. Okay, what is the new revenue? That's what I'll be asking. Every person that comes forward and says, in our city, we need more money for roads. In the county, we need more money we need new revenue. What is it? What does that look like? And how does it work? What's the outcome?
Well, in the 2 minutes we have left, actually, I hope that our FCTV and others that are wondering will be okay with the fact that we're going to go a little bit longer, because I still want to cover some health issues and labor law, and let's talk about medical marijuana. So easy stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So let's go to health insurance. Health insurance is crippling business. The cost of insurance is really staggering. Is there anything on the horizon that might help reduce that burden for business? And I want to just add too that some have suggested that a solution would be to reduce the reimbursements that healthcare providers receive, and that wouldn't put the burden on local hospitals and clinics. And that is also a very difficult solution. A very tough topic, and I really mean it. We have to kind of keep this moving to get to all the issues. So, Vicki, I think you're first on this one.
Okay. So it's not just a heavy burden for business, it's a heavy burden for everyone. And especially in that individual market where we're going to see close to, they're estimating 50% increases in your premium, really high deductibles. But this is an issue that's been a systemic problem for a number of years. As an insurance agent, I have tried to cover people with health insurance that's, accessible and affordable. And in our southeast region in particular, there have never been a lot of choices as far as the companies that are available. But there are things that we can do. I have worked on a bill called merged markets. Because this is the problem. The individual market is 5% of the population in the state of Minnesota. You put all of them into a pool, and especially if they choose the lowest premium priced product, you've got all of the sick people in one pool, which is what happened to Preferred One. And it's what happened to Blue Cross Blue Shield when they decided to pull out of the market. There just isn't a big enough pool with enough well people to pay for the claims that come in. That's a systemic problem that just saying we're going to do something with the insurance is not going to fix. So merged markets is something where as an individual, your company can, if you are in work for a company, they buy it as a small business, get the tax break, but it's in your name, so you can have it and it moves with you. Instead of people jumping in and out of pools, we create one pool. Now, I know we don't want to merge completely small group and individual because I think that would be problematic as well. But there are lots of things we can do, but we first need to get some competition into that southeast area, and we're not going to attract insurance companies in that area. We have one hospital. And basically the competition works when you have more access, more health available, more health care available. But my number one thing is to make sure that we keep our local hospitals open and accessible so we can get to them and use them. And this is something that happened with the procurement, even on our MA, when you have medical assistance is an issue in this too. And we almost lost South Country Health Alliance, which is a county-based system because of the procurement process. So I think there are two issues here, and I know you need to go short here, but it's not a short issue with a really good short answer, other than I'm working on it. I've offered several different bills to make sure agents are involved, that businesses get the tax breaks that they need to try to deal with this, and that we sit down with everyone to try to come to a conclusion. When you have just the prescription drug part going up 400%, you're going to have increases. Mm-hmm. And so part of the problem is we can't get to that information because it's private and proprietary information on behalf of the insurance companies and the hospitals. And so that's what I'd like to work on next, is make sure that we're understanding what role we play as an individual in the individual market, as a small group and large group, because we don't want to hurt them. There are all kinds of things that we can do, and I want to go back, make sure that I can continue to work on those things.
Tough issue, John. What's your
I'm going to keep
position?
it more simple. I mean, I just wish that people or somebody would agree that MNsure is a failure. I mean, it's not working. Everybody's insurance is going up. Before MNsure came along, I paid about, I can't remember the exact dollar amount, but I calculated out I'm paying $1,000 more a year now than I did before MNsure came in. We need just more free enterprise market. We need the free enterprise to take control of the insurance market and provide more competition. That's what it is. MNsure is not working. It was, it came into play, and it was the GOP did not. Nobody voted in favor of it. It was a DFL issue that came through, and they had both control of the House and the Senate and the governor, and it came in and was adopted. It's a failure. It is, and I wish someone would just admit that it is a failure, because that's what it is. And we need to try and get more privatized health care that gets people's rates back down.
So follow up on that real quick. How would you propose to get additional competition in the health insurance market.
We need to open it up to more people to come in and do that. Again, there's just so much regulation, so many things going on. Again, I don't know the technical standpoint. I haven't been in all the meetings for 4 years, and you know much more technical side of me. But I'll tell you what, the people that I knock on doors want it gone, because it's not providing what it was intended to do, and it's not doing that. It's creating everybody to pay more insurance. The employer has to pay more, they have to contribute more, the employee has to pay more, and they're getting less service, and it's not working. And we need to totally redo it some way to make it better, because it's not working. And you can try and keep changing it, but you're going to run out of money because it's just going on and on. So we need to revise or totally start something different and do it that way, because it's not working. And everybody that I know, I don't know who that I didn't knock on, likes it. So it's not working.
30 seconds, Vicki.
Well, first, MNsure is not an insurance company or running it. It's the Affordable Care Act that's forced these things at a federal level. So at the state level, we had to make a decision. Do we want to run? And at the time, the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce was in favor. When I took the vote, they were in favor of us doing MNsure and running our own exchange so that we had some control over that. So we weren't the only ones that felt that way, and that's important for people to know. But the Affordable Care Act is the first step. The first step to make sure that insurance companies who you pay your premium to, which removes you one step from your doctor, you had some way to have access to that. And that's what MNsure does. It doesn't set the tax rates or collect the subsidy. All it does is open up a portal. It's a website where you can pick your plan and it's available to you. We don't have enough companies, but it's a private system. The companies that are out on there are private insurance companies dealing with private doctors and private hospitals. So that's not true that it's public. It's not. But we might have to move the individuals into some form of public thing until we can figure out how we're going to make this work. And I do think it's worth trying to find fixes. Whether you repeal everything, you still have to come up with the solutions.
Well, we could go on and on about that. I think I heard some common ground about the value of free enterprising and competition in the marketplace. So let's go to an easy topic like labor laws. How about that? We've got a lot of things that our businesses talk to us about, the mandates on wage and benefit and the concerns about communities having autonomy in terms of setting things like minimum wage. We also are an outlier in Minnesota on prevailing wage and the way that we calculate it, which drives up the cost of public projects and causes unfair competition in many people's estimations. So how do we address those particular topics regarding labor law? Help me remember. I think we start with you on this one, John.
Well, the minimum wage thing, I think, is, to jump it as high as they're trying to jump it is crazy. You're artificially increasing everything, and the prices of everything else is going to go up as well. So you're going to offset that with that. There's just a lot of too much regulation on a lot of these things, and I think that even the prevailing wage, the amount of money we spend on increased wages for these projects is crazy. The money that we could save, and we had a downtown program, was the same thing. They had to pay prevailing wage, and nobody used the program because it offset all the benefit of using the program. So it doesn't work. We need to find a way that's calculated differently, because it's really affecting outstate Minnesota much worse than it is the metro area. So I think we need to stand up to that and make sure that it's calculated at a better rate, so that we, not such a difference between what the market rate is and the prevailing wage rate.
What about the issue of a local government setting wage and, like minimum wage in a particular city?
Well, you're talking about the Minneapolis thing, but, I have mixed feelings on that, because I think you want to give local control to the local communities, but I think it's a mistake, to do that. But, I also understand that, it's nice to give those, give control out to the cities. So, I want to keep the control of cities, but I think they made a mistake by doing that.
Okay, Vicki?
Sure. I actually am a co-author on the preemption. I have some big concerns about the stability and the ability for companies and corporations, especially ones that are located in different locations, exactly how that would work for them. And so until it's actually very clear on how that would work, I do have big concerns where local communities decide on different things for their particular city. if they want their local government to do that and set it for their workers themselves, that's one
For
thing.
the government workers.
Right, not when you force it and put it out to others. And that's been my concern with a lot of the employment and labor situations we've had come up to the legislature the last few times. I did not vote for minimum wage because I felt it would be a bad outcome, especially for rural Minnesota. I did not like the way the original Family Leave Act was written. And for me, this is about outcomes for rural Minnesota and understanding and making sure we get it right. So even when it comes to prevailing wage, I believe in prevailing wage. I think that money goes to workers that gets spent right in our communities. But we do need to make some changes sometimes, especially we've done it. We've done it in the past, so this is possible when we talk about broadband. Big issue that I feel passionate about that we need to get out there. There were some prevailing wage issues that were creating some problems with providing grant money to local users and utilities. So that can be done, but we have to be real cautious, make sure the outcome is what we want.
If I understand this correctly, Minnesota calculates the prevailing wage in a way that's significantly different than most other states, and that causes the calculation to be significantly higher than it would be if we'd use a calculation that most other states use. Mm-hmm. Do you support the idea of the change in the calculation?
I would take a look. I would absolutely take a look at all of those formulas that we use on all of those things, and make sure that the outcome is what we want.
Okay. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions that should almost be yes or no, but I don't know if that's possible, right? So
Not here.
It's probably not possible. So I don't know how quickly we can do this, but medical marijuana has led some people to believe that marijuana is safe and should be legalized. What do you think? Go ahead.
I think marijuana should remain as medicinal use only. I've been to Colorado and talked to some of the legislators there and some of the police and the law enforcement and some of the issues that they're dealing with. But there are other things we need to look at with medicinal marijuana too. It's not available through prescription. You can't get insurance for it. It's very expensive. I have some people that with very severe chronic pain that this would be very valuable to them. They can't afford it. So it's just like all the other medicine and prescription drug type things we're looking at. How do we monitor that and make sure people get access to it? I'm in favor of medicinal, but I work with my law enforcement people across the district, make sure I get their input and understanding of what they believe that outcome is going to be.
John.
And I'm pretty similar, again, for certain things, I know seizures is a big thing, it's the one relief for that, but I want to make sure that it's controlled and that it's used for a purpose that is, kind of as a last resort, that other things don't work for. I don't think it should be prescribed for a headache, obviously, more the serious things, the seizures and things that it works efficiently for. So, I would agree with that. I think that there is a use for it in certain circumstances, but just to make sure that it's highly regulated on where it's going.
Okay, so really quick on Real ID.
Me? I think it's kind of a no-brainer. I think we need to do it. I think the concern is the data. Where's the data going on the federal level? And that's what I've heard is that, with the Real ID, the data of that information that they're getting, where that data goes, and make sure the privacy is there. If people want to fly or go into government buildings, they're going to need that. We're going to have to conform to what the federal is requiring. But I also think we need an option for people who don't choose to fly and aren't going to go into government buildings at a more affordable thing that they can stand with it. So two options. So you can have it, or you can have an alternative to getting that expensive form of that. So that's my simple.
Real ID is an example of us passing some legislation originally that blocks you from being able to look at options, not a way I choose to govern and choose to look at things. The options should always be open. So that got us into the situation we were in. We were close to an agreement. This is going to go through. We need to make sure that everybody within the district that wants to travel with their driver's license has that availability to do that, and I'm committed to making that happen.
Staying with you on driver's license for unauthorized residents.
As an insurance agent, we need to do this for the safety of them and for us and for the financial responsibility that happens to families and people in communities that they're living, they're here, they're driving, and whether they should be driving or not, we've got a thing in law that says they can't get insurance. And I worry about the safety of not only the driver, like I said, but other people that are on the road.
John?
I would, on the other standpoint, I don't agree with it. I think that there's a process to go through, and you have to follow that process. My son and my kids have to go through the process to get a driver's license. They have to, it has to be legal, and you have to go through process. So I would, continue on with that process.
Okay, last easy one here, right? What about moving the primary? Should we be moving the primary to June, and why is that a good idea? John?
I would say yes. I think a lot of people, what I've seen in July and August, don't have the interest level, so I think moving it up, getting it over with so they can focus on the campaign ahead. I think if you moved it back farther, you don't have time to get the absentee ballots out and things like that. So I think moving it up to June makes some sense, lets people focus on their, getting through the primary and focusing on the real election.
Vicki?
Well, I think it's interesting because this is one of these issues that I've been out and talked to the townships in the district. And one of the things that come up that you just have to get out there and talk to people to understand the challenge is a lot of them don't have air conditioning. And they're not real thrilled to do it in June.
And August is better.
Which puts, yeah. So it's just interesting how when we moved it even into August that it created that issue. So.
I never would have thought of that,
Yeah.
but I guess that's interesting. Well, we do actually have to conclude, so I want to give each of you a couple of minutes to make a comment about why you would like to continue or become our next state senator. Vicki.
Again, I'm Vicki Jensen. I'll never forget how honored I felt when you elected me to represent you as your next state senator in 2012. From the moment that happened, I rolled up my sleeves and I went to work. I've held second Saturday with your senator events, the second Saturday of every single month, in 3 different locations across the district, and those meetings have allowed me to be connected to everyone in the district and have conversations that allow me to understand the challenges that you're facing and that we're able to create solutions together. Go out to VickiJensen.com, look at some of those accomplishments I've been able to do. The reason I'm running for office again is because I have a passion for rural policy. And I love the district that I represent. I'm asking for your support so that I can continue to roll up my sleeves and do the work that needs to happen for our families, our communities, our local businesses, our family farms, and especially for those things that keep us safe. I'm Vicki Jensen, and I'm asking for your vote on November 8th.
Thank you, Vicki. John?
Again, John Jasinski, the mayor of Faribault. I served the United States military for 4 years and learned to get involved. I returned from the military, got involved in city government here in Faribault, and spent 23 years learning the town, making sure I knew what the people's needs were, getting involved and trying to make a difference here in Faribault. I think I've learned a ton of things through that. I've met with several businesses, been engaged in the community, being very approachable throughout the community. I think everybody knows that. I'm out at all the events and doing things like that. I want to use that experience and take that to the next level and make Minnesota better. I've tried to make my best at Faribault being better. We've done some great things as a community, not just me. As a community, we've worked together to get those things done. I've been involved with that. I've tried to spearhead a lot of those things to make, as I said before, an economic development platform, and I've worked my hardest to do that. Again, I work as hard as I can, involved in the community, and when you come to vote in November, I think you want to make sure your pocketbook matches who you want to vote for. And if you believe in the other opponent, then you should vote for her. And if you believe what I believe in, you should vote for me. I can live with it either way. I just want to give my best back to the community, make District 24 better, and give back to my community and the district. I've enjoyed it tremendously being the mayor. It's probably the neatest thing I've done in my life, and look forward to doing that as a Senate level as well. There's a lot of things as a mayor of Faribault you cannot do, and at the state level, as in the Senate, you can. So I want to use that not only for Faribault, but for all the cities in the district, in the area of District 24, to do the same thing I did in Faribault and show people that I can make a difference. My website is Jasinski for Senate, and you can check that out as well. And I look forward to serving the Senate, representing Faribault and the entire district. I've met a ton of great people throughout the district. I obviously was born and raised here in Faribault, so I know Faribault the best of any of the cities, but have been really enjoying to get to know the rest of the communities, and will do the same in those communities that I have done here in Faribault. So I look forward to your support, and again, remember what your pocketbook is and the beliefs that you want to see done in the state of Minnesota. So thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to our conversation with the candidates for State Senate. We want to thank John Jasinski and Senator Vicki Jensen for joining us, and hope that you'll tune in for additional conversations with candidates. Thanks for watching.